And Ms. Andreasen next.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for all the presentations by the Bureau, the Secretary General, the Internal Auditor, and the auditors. I will refer basically to certain aspects in the questions that I find the responses to be pretty unclear, to say the least. You mentioned, for example, in question 1 that there has been a redeployment of 182 posts, but you don't give us any estimation of the costs involved in this redeployment. You mentioned in response to question 2 that you are about to replace the GDA software for administrative documents. You don't mention anything about the costs. In question 3, we ask if actions proposed by the internal auditor have been implemented. There is no response to this, so we don't know. I heard the internal auditor mention that in the case of the IT area, only 20 of the 40 actions proposed were implemented. For the rest, we have no idea. In question 4, there is no indication of what pieces of technical support are remain connected between parliamentary sessions in Strasbourg. In question 37, we asked you for the cost of missions where 4 administrative staff were involved, and we don't have any question. We don't have any answer. We would like to know at least when we can have an answer. And now I focus on the main element of contention for me, and I have to be very careful because I can be accused of giving numbers to the journalists, and I refer to the European History House. Mr. Welle, you have come with the good news that the Commission is going to share the costs. Well, I'm sorry to say, and I have said this in prior occasions, this is no good news. It is the same taxpayer paying for the cost of the European History House. So the fact that the Commission shares the cost, it's always the taxpayer who's going to pay. This is no good news for me. But what I would like to have is a clear definition of the costs, because in page 12 there is a comparison between the original business plan and the subsequent business plan. And in the list you refer to fixed cost and variable costs, so I would like a split of the fixed costs and the variable costs. But also then you go to talk about the floor staff, the academic staff. What are these, variable or fixed costs? I don't understand how you split between variable and fixed and then list other costs, okay? I will go back to what was mentioned by Bart Stas. I do not agree that Parliamentarium and European History House should be combined. I think they shouldn't exist. Thank you.
Ja, vielen Dank, Frau Andreasen.
Thank you, Ms. Andreasen.
Ms. Andreasen asked a series of questions. First of all, about the cost of transfer of workers. We have 182 of them have been transferred. That doesn't cost anything. The jobs are already in the establishment plan. What we're doing is identifying where they are not being used anymore, and there we ask the Budget Committee for new jobs. So you mentioned a figure of 182 jobs over 5 years. In 2011, we identified posts that we no longer need where they are, that we can move to somewhere else where they will be useful. Not many more, but still, particularly regarding political advice to members, which is our core job, and we can do that without any additional costs. You also asked about our post management system. The Budget Committee has raised the question whether our processing is optimal. In my answer, I made it clear that no, it isn't. But what we need is a better software, and we've we're looking at what's available out there, what's better than what we've got now, and how long it will take to have it installed. I can't give you a timeline on that, but the deficit you mentioned, I certainly recognise, and I think that we'll have to tackle it in the coming year. You also mentioned the internal auditor and the open actions. In my opening statement, I said that as of now, we don't have any critical actions open, so I think that's good news. It's good news as far as it goes, obviously, and on the other open actions, there's been a clear decrease from 88 to 68, and that surely is the right trend, and I think it shows that cooperation with the Directorates General this year, at least, has been good. On missions, I've already spoken. On the question of the House of European History, I think that in your documents you have a clear establishment plan, essentially in 3 areas. There is a division of costs. First, the building costs, about 31 million euros. That's in the documents. Secondly, costs for equipment. You can't just build bare walls. You've got to put in the fittings and fixtures, and that's 21 million, I think. The exact figure is in your numbers. And then there's the question of running costs. And there, in the negotiations with the Budget Committee, and then following that in the Bureau, we decided that we want to reduce them further. We will only open 6 days instead of 7. We will reduce staff, and we will have lower grade staff in that facility, and we'll only change things every 10 years, not every 8 years. These will all lead to reductions in costs. That's important for the running costs, and we have Mr. Barroso's commitment that the Commission wants to contribute to that. You're quite right, that doesn't make it any cheaper for European taxpayers, but it is a recognition of the fact that the House of European History is not just there for Parliament, but for all our institutions, including Commission.